we're going to talk about AI and creativity. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to collaborate with AI without losing your own voice. So, in my work as like an AI speaker, a trainer, an educator, I come across some questions that are sort of, if you start to think about patterning, you see these questions over and over again. And one of those questions is, how do I get AI to get my voice? And like, how do I make it sound like me instead of making, sounding generic? And then if you take that, peel back that idea a couple of layers, the question really becomes, how do you not lose your voice to AI? How do you not like become this super generic sounding thing where everyone says to you, I mean, says about you perhaps, that like, that sounds exactly like AI, and that particular way of constructing sentences is straight from ChatGPT, and that's really not what we want, right? At least the proficient practitioners really need to learn how not to show up in that fashion. So today we're going to start by like dissecting the fear. Like what are some of the parts of this fear? Why is it that people are feeling like, oh, this voice thing is not translating? Primarily because the idea of creativity is innately human. Human beings use our brains in imaginative ways to think up things that are not here yet. And conversely, the very essence of AI is pattern and data and stuff that is already here. And so those seem like opposite ideas at first look until you sort of bring your hands together and you're like, when you put the quantum abilities that you can achieve using AI to help you think, along with your own creativity, that's when you're going to start seeing like multipliers. Like the age of the multiplier is back. Like get used to hearing people talk in 10x, and in my case 100x, or maybe even 1000x, because you've got an outlier concept that is here, it is available, it is free, it is, something that pretty much everyone with a computer can use, and that is going to create innovation at the very least. Even if everyone's not using it to immediately make the millions, it's going to simplify your life and change things, in a very significant way. So start to think about AI as something that is a strategic partner. One of the things, that I feel is a missed opportunity in many small businesses is that we're still using tools like ChatGPT, which are huge models, massive LLMs. It's in the very name. People are using those tools like they are junior employees, like it's the intern. So you're offering it instructions in a task-based format, like go and fill out a description for my YouTube video, or go and write me, a caption for my Instagram reel. So it's very tactical. And as you do it, if you do it a lot, everything's going to get better. However, there's a much bigger way in which you can be thinking about AI. You can be using it as your strategic partner, as your second brain, or your co-pilot. Now, there's another tool called co-pilot, so I use that term less. But really thinking about it as that strategic brain is where we need to get started. So instead of going in there and starting to write, and then when you're starting to write, it's going to come out in a way that sounds a little bit generic. So, and I'll give you a way to get around that as well. That's the second point that we'll touch on. But let's stay with this thinking of using AI as your strategic brain, using it to brainstorm with. Like go in there and say something like, "Hey, I'm trying to create a product that looks like this. Um, Give me the considerations. Ask me questions." Like if there is one hack that I can offer you, and sometimes it surprises me that everyone doesn't know this, but I have to deal with the fact that I'm inside the bubble, and I will keep saying it over and over again. If there's one hack that you need to be using, it is the act of letting the machine lead you. So ask your ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whichever one your preference is, ask it to ask you questions about whatever it is that you're working on at that point. And when it asks you those questions, while the questions might be the same, the answers are going to be yours. And that's where your voice starts coming into it. Right at the top, right at the strategic level, you're putting your thoughts, your ideas, and your voice into the process of creating anything, into the process of creatively thinking about a problem. And so that, I think, is the first thing that all of us need to start learning about AI. Don't enter at a tactical level and expect it to sound completely like you. That's not going to happen. Start at the very top, use AI as your second brain, and then go down into answering questions, really clarifying your own mind. It's almost like online journaling in some ways, where you're like, you know, these answers, and perhaps these answers live in your brain in one way or another, but just putting it down and having it all connect to each other forms a real thing as opposed to a bunch of thoughts.